Before we start, I got a good question for people who actually watch these videos. Lately I've just been doing like step-by-step videos, you know, done this, done this, done this. Instead of having like 5 minutes of you welding and grinding and stuff. What's people's opinion of that? Is that a better way of doing it? Or do you prefer the old style? Yeah, make some comments in the comment section if you actually watch these things. Right, back again. This time we are going to get into the wiring. Like the wiring's sort of okay. It was pretty messy, and it's one of the things I was always worried about doing the radiator was, you know, where the wiring goes to the firewall, is there enough room for it? There was enough room. But what we did do, we got a new wiring harness. Because like, I'll show you what I'm talking about, right? Down the footwell here, this is where our wiring used to be a lunchbox there. Had the computer in it, there's our lunchbox. They had like random relays just sitting on the floor. You had to feel what was clicking to figure out what was what. Got a little control panel down here, some gauges up there. They had all sorts of just wires everywhere. You got your wiring going back to the fuel pump through there. Even the fan wires went to where the fan should be, looped back around to the front of the car, which was pretty random. So, got the engine bay as well, it's not too bad. There's your engine bay. That had to go, they've covered all the wire up with this convoluted tube and whatnot. But stuff's been added over the years. Over there's also some wires going everywhere. So, what we got, well, we got a new oil pressure gauge because I was doing some weird stuff last meeting. But we bought this prefab wiring harness. Got it from a guy in Victoria. I'll put his name and thing out in the comments if anyone's interested, actually. But yeah, so here we go. So look, we'll get out and have a bit of a look. Right, so I've got this all spread out. Let's try and figure out what's what. So I've had a look at it here. Here we go on here. So I found these three. I get the engine harness, them two. That goes the MAP sensor it's called. MAP sensor, I think. You get your distributor. Not totally sure yet what this black one here does. I think that's your tacho there. Which I think it's down here. What else we got? Yeah, so we've got, that's our alternator charge wire, so that's got to stay. So there goes the engine harness on this end. Let's just have a look, try and figure out where the starter motor was. I think I figured it out somewhere here. We got there. Take our wire. That's actually inside the vehicle. There's your wire goes to your battery. Yeah, so figuring it out at the time. Otherwise, worst case scenario, I have got the diagram here for the car. I think that's your starter motor there. That's one thing I wasn't quite sure of. I think it's that. I might get the meter on it, see what matches up. Yeah, with that, the hardest part is figuring out what we keep out of all this bloody stuff here, because you're going to need some wires, like temperature sensor there. So you're going to need some wires to go to the gauge, or gauges. We've got a new oil sensor inside, or gauge even. Yeah, we're figuring it out. Just going to sit here and start pulling out what we don't need and leaving what we do need. First thing to do is get our wiring out. We'll start down here in the well. As I say in a short video, got the car on the jack. It's up on the ground. So reach over here and do it. But we might just rather go through. There's a bit here. Ooh, that's terrible. So we'll stick our head through the door bar here and start disconnecting some of this stuff. I was hoping to get the wiring out without pull apart too much. Then I realised we put this pipe here, so we might not be able to get some of the wiring looped around that pipe. So we might have to cut some of it, but I was hoping not to cut too much of it, just in case we want to get it redone down the track. Anyhow, let's get into it. This is our new wiring harness, has this grommet here, And the exact same grommet is in the top of the firewall there. So I reckon we're gonna see if we can get that out. Ooh, cut that gunk a bit. Good place to start as any. And we might reuse that same hole for our new wiring harness. So we've got on the dashboard here. There's a fair bit going on up there where the gauges and stuff are. I'll just have a look at it. So I'll just drill these rivets here. We might just take that dashboard panel out. And while we'll get it there, we're going to right up that far end. Wait a minute. We'll get our little prefabricated dashboard, come with the kit. So once we get this dashboard out, I reckon somewhere there we'll cut a hole and we can get the switches from the driver's seat. Yeah, let's find a drill bit and we'll get this front of this panel out. There we go, got the dashboard out. So there we get the back of these gauges. This last bit of wiring here. Got a new gauge for the middle there. There it is, oil pressure gauge going there. Got to look in to see if we can get the oil pressure light to work with the gauge or just have the gauge. Not entirely sure how it wires up. Yeah, so cut a hole there somewhere. Put that dashboard in. See what, I heard built this car. They some things that aren't very good, but I have to say that panel there, that nice job of that, eh? They shaped it all up. Put a little of this reinforcing in it. See, they've done some things a bit weird. I've noticed over the years, but they didn't. Obviously, they were good sheet metal workers who ever did it. And yeah, let's start getting some more stuff out of this. This series wire I found, it was sort of bundled up with the water temperature wire and the fan wires for some reason. But I reckon I found the other end of it. Going to our oil pressure light that we had last few meetings. Oil pressure light was sort of a bit intermittent, not working sometimes. And this wire was sort of snapped off, so at the moment it's dangling, banging things. Actually, might have been coming on not because of low oil, like the sender, but because the wires are flopping around, hitting the earth, setting the light off. So let's get our meter over here and see if that's what that is. If we can make it reach, be good. One-handed. Or yeah, there we are. So that's our oil pressure wire. So we might be able to use that either for a gauge or see if the gauge that we've got for it has a part we can plug the oil pressure sensor in as well. So we'll check that out later on. It's not quite a pressing thing at the moment. Let's get back to it. Right, here's where we're at. Probably finished for today. We've got our wiring harnesses gone from in here. At least have that box there with the switches on, that's gone. Only left is I'll put some wiring here. It goes back to the fuel pump. We can just splice that in and replace that down the track. I took the main switch off the dashboard out just to take some wires out of it. It's just sitting at the moment. Here at the dashboard we kept two wires that were running through the front, which were the oil pressure sender and the temperature sender. So you can reuse those. A few FY type things down there, nothing spectacular. We've salvaged, you just have to redo this. I might shorten it up a bit. This is the charge wire, goes back to the alternator. The high voltage, not high voltage, yeah, charges the high current, charges the battery. That was had like, it joins in it, there it is there, joins into that. That goes back to the battery, but it had like heaps of looped up wire there, so you might shorten that off somewhere to put it on the battery. The other thing we haven't taken off yet is our engine harness, which is just your injectors there. Down the distributor here's a few plugs, which is this one. That's the engine harness there. That's, we'll take that off still, the old one. We've got our gauge here, so I'll see how that connects. Might have to get an adapter for the sender, the old engine block. We'll have to look into that. But here is our old wiring. The old dashboard there, relays, there's your plug for your computer, had a massive chunk of enamel gaps, looks like I would have built back in the day. Comparing it to this is our new wiring that we're going in the car. So that was mostly working. It's giving some funny issues, but I think once we get this all in, it's going to be a bit more neater and a bit easier to track any problems down. There we go, that's done for the day. That's the getting the wiring out of the car video done. So tomorrow, Bathurst on, I must even get some of it back in. It's probably not as big a job as I think it is to get it back in, because as you've seen before, there's a lot less junk to go in there. But we'll see how we go. Anyhow, have a good weekend, have a good night. We're going to watch the rest of the top 10 shootout for Bathurst, and we'll catch up with you next time.